Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today. I think this is going to be a very interesting session. Exciting news about an exciting part of our life here in Berks County. I'm Dave Myers. I'm the director of the Berks Alliance, and on behalf of the Berks Alliance and our investors, I want to welcome you to this program. We do these Spotlight Series programs. We try to do them once a month. Sometimes we get carried away with ourselves and do more than one a month. We also sponsor a series of community forums, which we try very hard to do once a month. I'm going to ask you to leave your camera on so we can see we're dealing with real people, but please mute your microphone so we don't have a whole lot of disruptive background noise. I want to cover some ground rules that we have for these sessions. We ask you, as I said, to mute and keep your camera on. If you notice at the bottom of the screen, there's a chat function. Please use that to submit questions and comments. Once we get done with the formal presentation, we will go to those questions and comments, and either I'll ask them or I'll call upon the person who submitted them to ask them. If we don't get through all the questions and comments, we will share them with our speakers and ask them to provide their responses, and we will share that back with the audience. We will record this. We'll send a copy of the recording to everybody who registered. We had over 140 people register for this event, so that's nice. No pressure on Crystal. But it does indicate the interest that people have in this program and in this topic. We will also post it on the Berks Alliance website, and we will share it with BCTV, our partners at BCTV, so they will post it on their YouTube channel. So you have a lot of opportunities to watch this program beyond being with us today. Hopefully it's worthwhile that you'll come back to it. So with that, I am going to introduce Crystal Seitz and turn it over to her. Crystal is the president of the Pennsylvania Americana Region Tourism Office, and as she rightfully says, the #1 cheerleader for Berks County. Crystal.
Good afternoon, everybody, and David, Berks Alliance and GRCA, thanks for having us today. We appreciate it. I'm happy to see all my partners joining us today as well, and my staff is on, my team, who all this stuff would not happen without them. And I know you're all here because you're just a little curious about our brand refresh and the economic strategies surrounding the tourism industry that we're going to present. With me today, I have Ethan Connor Ross. He's a senior vice president and principal of eConsult Solutions. He's joining me, as well as on the call itself on the Zoom, is Matt Brandt, who's the chief strategist, and I think Deb Brandt's on here as well, who's the founder and CEO of FIG Industries, who is our agency of record. But before we get started, I just want to say we're going to get to the really good stuff, and then we're going to get to the great stuff when Ethan comes on. I want to set the stage a little bit. So in 2022, Pennsylvania's Americana region, which is the Reading and Berks County Visitors Bureau, started several new initiatives to encourage more tourism to the area. I don't know if you all are aware, but tourism is a very strong industry for our county. It brings in close to $1 billion of economic impact in direct visitor spending every year. So it's important that for our county, we maintain and work to grow this industry for our economic health here. In a few minutes, I'm going to give you a sneak peek of our refreshed brand, and you are some of the first people to see it as we start to roll it out. We all know that our industry, the tourism and hospitality industry, was hit really, really hard by the pandemic, along with so many others, but it was especially brutal on the leisure visitor community. So coming out of the pandemic, we decided we would create something a little lighter, more fun and spirited, celebratory feeling, fresher, to attract visitors and locals to our website and to our area. We use colors and styles that helped us do just that. And because we know our targeted age groups are 20 to 50-year-olds, and our future workforce is the younger end of that range. So when we refreshed, we knew we had a lot of purposes in mind, and we had to make sure that this was attractive to a whole bunch of different people. So let me see, I'm going to try to share right now so you get that peek. All right, I'm going to make sure I got it up there. And just give me a second, because as David knows, I was struggling with this and worried that I wouldn't be able to do it. So, all right. I think you can see that.
We can see it.
All right. And this is our new brand, our logo, the tag, Get Curious. And I'll let that just sink in for a few minutes, or maybe a minute. So Get Curious encourages people to want to dig a little bit deeper, to find the unique and eclectic things that we have here, the fun stuff, the stuff that, you know, you might not find somewhere else, or if you think about Reading and Berks County, you might not know. And if you're a local, which is a whole audience that we look to attract to go to our businesses that we represent, it also ignites your interest about what Reading and Berks County has to offer. So what you're missing out here, people on this call, could be right in your own backyard, and you didn't even know it. It's amazing to me how often somebody will say, I didn't know we had that here. Well, yeah, you just got to do a little digging and get curious about it. So let me go back to me. So new initiatives we're working on include the brand refresh and a new strategic plan, which you're going to hear more about that in a little bit from Ethan. But also we have a lot going on at the Bureau right now. We are in the development of a new website that's coming out soon in the next month or so. We have several passport trails that are being developed, and new videos about the area. We also have created some new seasonal campaigns to roll out the new brand, the new look, and I'll show you them at the end of the program. I figured I'd hold them to the end so I keep you on. We're also working on a local campaign at Berks County, Reading Berks County campaign, to make sure that our locals know who we are and where to go to find information. Where they can go to find services, events, things to do, restaurants they want to eat at, and that they understand that we're an excellent resource for them. I mean, you would be surprised at some of the questions we get here at the Bureau. I'll just give you one. We have a call from somebody who used to live here, but now they're in California. They're coming in, they want to visit their parents' mausoleum, but they can't find the key. So we hunt down how they find a key to their mausoleum. Those are the types of calls, really funky calls we get routinely here at the Visitors Bureau to help people. We are also collaborating with the county with the Imagine Berks initiatives and with GRCA Meet Greater Reading on talent recruitment. So it's also important to note that what we do isn't just about the visitor. It's about helping the local person. It's about helping and supporting every business, the community, and person in Berks County in some way at some time. We're sort of a touch point for everything. So with that, I think I'd like to introduce Ethan Connor-Ross, because he's going to get into our strategic initiatives that the plan was just completed at the end of 2022. Some of the things we've started working on already, but some will not only include us working on them, but partners to help lead other pieces of it. So Ethan Connor-Ross is a senior vice president and principal of eConsult Solutions. It's a Philadelphia-based consulting firm who specializes in public policy and economics. His practice areas include public policy, transportation, tourism, economic development, and strategic planning. Prior to ESI, He was the Vice President of Research and Planning at Visit Philadelphia, where he led the organization's strategic planning and data collection efforts. At eConsult, Ethan's worked on tourism planning and economic development studies with a range of destinations. And this is what I like most about Ethan. He has a good variety of destinations he worked with. In Pennsylvania, it was Bucks County, Chester County, who are both of our competitive markets, Ocean City, New Jersey, Douglas County, Georgia, Houston, Texas, and of course, Philadelphia, as I mentioned earlier. So Ethan, I'm going to sign off for a second and let you take the screen.
Great. Thanks, Crystal. And hopefully I'm up and running and everyone can see my screen here. Good to be here, everyone. And thank you for that introduction. Means I don't have to talk about myself and we can kind of dive right in here. I do want to note we had another partner on this project, Alan Parter of Parter International. Alan's an industry veteran, worked for the New York State Department of Commerce, handling tourism issues there. So a lot of experience in the team, a lot of different destinations and plans we've been involved in. Wanted to start a little bit with kind of the overall planning philosophy. We'll do some of the main findings and focus our time today mostly on the recommendations. But in terms of how we approach strategic planning, it's really not just what the organization itself is doing and has done, but what is the ecosystem that they operate in? What are the economic development objectives of the county, of the city, of the main players here? So all of that kind of runs through our broader philosophy when we try to get our arms around what's really going on in a destination. You can see the kind of three-stage process at the top, from research and assessment to the situation analysis to the recommendations. And we're really hoping for kind of a through line to run through the entire planning process. The things that we identify in the research phase, in the industry trends, in the strategic topics are where we focus our recommendations. And here, this will vary by project, but we identified the following three categories: the visitor experience, the marketing and branding of how the destination is positioned, and then collaborations and partnerships. And we'll emphasize this really over and over, but the kind of folks that are on this call are the ones, in addition to the organization itself, that are going to be key to making all of this happen, because the organization can be a convener, can certainly support and promote the brand, but has limited resources and really needs to work within this broader context. And we'll come back to that on the recommendations themselves. Just one more slide on process. We had a kind of a mix of data collection approaches. We're a very quantitative shop. Obviously, all of the information that we could get our hands on, industry data, organizational data, we wanted to use. Site visits, came out to the destination and saw different parts of the county, but had a big stakeholder interview process as well, which was led by Alan on our team. You can see the list of folks there, a lot of kind of respected folks in the community that we talked with, had in-depth interviews with. And then also strategy sessions with the organization and board. So to kind of present our initial findings, be a sounding board for what resonates with you, are we going in the right direction? And a lot of the recommendations ultimately come out of things that are kind of in the air. People have been talking about them, and our job as consultants and as leading this process is to help kind of shape, pick and choose and understand which of those are sort of best suited to the strategic situation that we find ourselves in. We did look at kind of key travel trends more broadly than just the destination. And I'll go kind of quickly through our situation analysis, but we really do want to focus on post-COVID. Obviously, major changes in the industry, as Crystal referenced. Tourism industry hurt really more than any other. And the recovery, which we'll talk about, has been encouraging, I would say, over the last year or two. But that doesn't mean that the destination is the same and has recovered evenly and everything is the same moving forward as it was in 2019. So these are some of the trends that we're seeing, and really people working and traveling differently. This idea of kind of hybrid work from anywhere, this idea of shorter stays, people bringing their laptops with them, I think is, in our view, going to change the way people travel in a durable way moving forward. And other trends that really carried through and are emphasized even more, but existed before. Environmental considerations, experiential tourism, where people really want to have a unique local experience. These things we think remain kind of strong coming through the pandemic. Some headwinds in the short term, obviously inflation and the availability of dollars obviously some of the staffing challenges that the industry is going through in sort of the short and medium term. But we think long-term, kind of this corporate travel equilibrium. So what does business travel look like in the age of Zoom when meetings can happen virtually that used to happen in person, and where does that land, and some of the bigger picture issues like that. We've looked at some data on recovery, and this is really up-to-date information on how Berks County finished the year 2022 from a hotel perspective. We try to do this in kind of a benchmarked way relative to 2019, and what you'll see on this Berks versus national comparison, the county was actually not hit as hard, or I should say the metrics did not drop as far as the national hotel measures. And then the recovery in 2022 is actually a little bit stronger than the national, again, relative to that 2019 benchmark. So the chart you'll see on the right is revenue per available room, benchmark to 2019. Berks County up 16% in 2022. It's about level on occupancy, 58.2%, slightly higher than 2019, and then a pretty significant increase in room rate. Certainly a lot of that is inflation driven and driven by that environment, but kind of a stronger recovery than that national benchmark, which is obviously good to see from a county perspective. And then another big focus of the study, and a thing that we need to be cognizant of, is kind of the competitive dynamic that the organization and that the county find itself in. And Berks County is obviously situated next to a lot of attractive destinations, and importantly, a lot of destinations with a somewhat similar product. So elements of experience you can have in Lancaster County are found in Berks County, and Bucks County are found in Berks County. So this kind of competitive landscape is really important when the county thinks about attracting its share of tourists. And what we're showing on the screen here is how that sort of competitive dynamic works from a funding standpoint. The primary way that destination marketing organizations are funded is through hotel taxes, and each of the counties has a pretty similar hotel tax rate. You see some differences in the amount of revenue generated that's kind of based on the size of the industry, with, again, Lancaster, Bucks having sort of a bigger hotel industry. But the other major factor is this promotional share. So where some of the competitor counties see their dollars dedicated almost entirely to tourism promotion, so the dollars that come in from hotel guests and are taxed go back out in tourism promotion, advertising, marketing budgets. In Berks County, a minority of the tourism budget is devoted to promotion. So between that and the revenue generated in the first place, a much smaller budget for the organization than some of its competitors. So I will note these are 2021 numbers. Obviously, the picture looks a little better for everybody in 2022 and hopefully going forward. But the point still holds from a competitive standpoint that some of the neighboring destinations do have more assets to work with. So that plays into our SWOT analysis, but certainly have gone broader here. As I referenced, this is kind of in three buckets, and this is how the recommendations will play out as well. There's the visitor experience, which is really what's there for tourists to do, how do they engage with the destination. There is the marketing and branding, how is the destination positioned and promoted, a lot of which is addressed in kind of the new branding that you're seeing today, which is in a lot of ways aligned with and responsive to some of the issues that we identified. And then collaborations and partnerships. So again, not just what the organization is doing, but what is the industry doing? What is the civic infrastructure, government? Are they working with each other? How are they working with the organization? So just to highlight a couple of things that are bolded here in terms of our big picture takeaways on the county and its tourism positioning. We certainly found a variety of attractions within Berks County that are attractive, a strong event schedule. Perhaps the flip side of that in the weaknesses, the lack of a single iconic destination defining attraction that you would immediately think of, when you hear Berks, you kind of go to the one. So that can be, again, both a strength and a weakness, but something that we know we need to kind of find the balance of. Down in the collaborations and partnerships section, we followed and read the Imagine Berks materials, the kind of planning that came out of that. And the explicit inclusion of tourism in economic development plans, we think, is a real strength, a real recognition from the county, from stakeholders of the importance of this industry. The flip side of that, we do perceive a little bit of a lack of tourism cheerleaders, whether in government, whether in kind of the civic fabric, that could really kind of pick up and be industry leaders outside of the industry itself. The opportunities, a lot of these will show up in the recommendations, so won't spend a lot of time going through these here. But in the threats, certainly limited funding relative to competitors, which we just talked about, and then kind of some of the kind of silos of organizations, different initiatives as well. So we've got recommendations in each of these categories. I'll talk through them with a focus on kind of some more than others. But starting with the visitor experience, the first one is around Maple Grove Raceway. And I would say if there's sort of a single potential opportunity that we identified as that potential sort of anchor attraction that I talked about, Maple Grove really rose to the top of that list in terms of the available space there, the events that they welcome now, but the potential to build it into something more. So we've talked about concepts like non-racing events there, concerts, other gatherings of that nature. We've talked about potential increases to the actual infrastructure and facility there, whether that's more outdoor activities, go-karts, tracks, things of that nature, or actually indoor space, whether that's museum related, meetings, all sorts of things you could do there. And it gives me an opportunity to talk about one of the things that we tried to do with these recommendations is find other sites around the country that had ideas that we could sort of draw from or draw parallels from in different places. So for example, here we identified Dominion Raceway in Virginia as a center for racing, but also entertainment. They have the concerts, they have corporate events, and could that kind of model work in a Maple Grove context? Next one here is around experiential product. And this, the way it's phrased, I think is right. This is really a continue to develop, continue to promote, because there are a lot of great experiences and activities out there in Berks County, and it's really a matter of making sure that those are promoted, making sure those are accessible to a visitor and easy for them to access and do. So things like outdoor and water adventure activities, interactive experiences with food and drink, going to farms, farm to table dining, meet the chef, the brewmaster, those kind of activities, and arts, culture, and historic programming, really kind of meeting artists, touring historic locations, historical recreations. These are all things that Berks is very well suited to in terms of the product is here, the authentic history, arts, culture that's here, and also really meets the kind of direction that the broader tourism industry is going. And so we think a good focus. Building from that, Reading's Latino community and Berks County's Latino community, obviously growing in importance in terms of demographics and influence within the county. And we think making sure that that community is engaged with and understanding what those experiences are, what those stories are, that a visitor that may not be as familiar has a little bit easier access to some of those experiences and to that community. Mount Penn and Reading Pagoda, we look at this as an underutilized asset. Obviously, some considerations around accessibility to the building and some of the public sector decisions that go into that. But we have looked at ideas like welcome centers, could more be made in terms of an event space, and just sort of highlighting that iconic location and view in ways that kind of get more mileage out of it from a tourism standpoint. Reading's Riverfront, this is really a supportive one to the Reading downtown plan and some of the activity that is happening there. The notion that this is, again, potentially underutilized and also potentially a point of distinction for Reading and for Berks County. Some of the other destinations like Lancaster don't necessarily have kind of that riverfront experience. So as more and more happens through development, through city planning there, that's something that for the tourism perspective to really watch and really try to take advantage of. Winter programming, this is the kind of off season, the weakest season for hotel demand at this time. So it's a question of kind of what can be done from a programmatic standpoint to bolster that. We've identified some other communities around the country, one in Michigan in particular, that's doing all sorts of programming, sort of outdoor, on the street activations during the winter season, and some ideas that could come out of that to kind of keep that off season bolstered and a little more aligned with some of the performance in other seasons. And finally, short-term rental providers. This is an area that has grown during the pandemic. We expect to continue to be strong, and it's really a question of if somebody's going to book through Airbnb through another platform, are there ways to get them that same level of information, that same level of guidance about what they can do in the county and experience from a tourism standpoint as they might through a hotel. On the marketing and branding side, A lot of this is addressed on these first couple by the kind of refresh of the brand that you just saw that Crystal will talk more about. From a research standpoint, continuing to and upping the research on who are your visitors, what are their perceptions, what are their reactions potentially to the new campaign, always a good practice there. In terms of promotion among locals, this is something that was really a focus for a lot of places during COVID, and here as well, in the notion of kind of getting folks back out initially into stores. A lot of that marketing was aimed locally. But moving beyond that, in terms of a long-term strategy, the notion here is that locals can often be your best marketers, particularly in kind of a social media context. And so for folks to be, have some resources set aside to help locals understand what is there to do in the community, what are those messages that are out there, what is the new brand, et cetera, to help them kind of be ambassadors and take that message outward. And then industry events, certainly including this one and others that the organization can do to kind of be a convener and be a connector. And that really feeds into this set of collaborations and partnership recommendations. The first one really relating to the Imagine Berks effort that I referenced earlier, understanding what the county's expectations are for the organization participating not only in tourism attraction, but talent attraction, quality of life issues, and making sure that those expectations are really aligned with resources and the case for enhanced tourism promotion funding relative to some of these competitors, as I've talked about. Being a connector for the industry in terms of the cross promotion, the joint packaging, the development of trails, itineraries, et cetera, around related attractions. One thing we found is that some of the attractions that may be of interest to people are not always close geographically. So making those direct links of, if you like X, you may also want to do Y, and making that as easy as possible for the visitors. And then finally, higher ed institutions as a catalyst. This is obviously a very strong sector in Berks County from an employment standpoint, but from a civic leadership standpoint. And there are a lot of shared interests in our view between the higher ed space and tourism. When you think about the attractiveness of the place, when you think about some of the workforce development issues. So we do think that there could be some opportunities there. So final slide here, and none of these recommendations are new. This is actually a kind of a sorting of the ones that we just went through on a different set of dimensions. So we kind of put these in a 2x2 matrix on which the vertical axis is about time, which of these are short-term, which of these are long-term, and then the horizontal axis is really about the organizational role. And again, which of these are DMO-led? These are truly functions directly of Crystal's organization, and which really are going to be collaborative efforts between the communities. So, when you start in the top left, you've got some things that the organization sort of can and should do in the short term and are kind of straightforward, and moving down to the bottom left, you see some of the longer term efforts on the organizational side. But the right of the screen is really about what the community and the county can do collectively, bringing together business leadership, government leadership, civic leadership. And really on the bottom right, those are some of those kind of big picture, big ticket items that the county could be thinking about over the long term. I do want to note that we would kind of characterize these recommendations as more of a menu than a checklist. We understand that conditions are going to evolve over time. And part of the function of strategic planning here is not to say, year 4, here's exactly what we're doing. It's really enabling the organization and the county to be prepared for what might come and to be opportunistic, where there's dollars, where there's investors, where there's public dollars, to kind of make some of those prioritizations. So that's really the spirit of the plan and the spirit of the recommendations here. So I'm going to turn it back to Crystal to talk a little bit more about some of the creative executions, and then we can do kind of a collective Q&A at the end of the session here.
Okay, thank you, Ethan. I know we ran through that pretty quickly, but there is a full strategic plan that we're happy to share if you would like it. Maybe I can provide it to David, so when he puts out his email with the recording, it's there. I promised I would share a taste of our campaigns with you. And then after you get to see these, I want to ask you to do some sharing for us. As you saw in one of the short-term partner-led recommendations was to help bolster winter activity, but by having others share our information. And again, this not only goes out to visitors, but locals as well. You know, we want to attract locals so that they know what's happening in the area, they know where to get the information and how we can help them. So let me work to share again. Just give me 1 second. Uh-oh. I lost you for a second there. Okay. There we go. Let me go down to first some of the brand elements that we're using. You know, I talked about fresh and exciting colors and fonts and things like that. Well, we're changing the colors from when the original Pennsylvania's Americana region was a little more of a traditional blue, red. We're moving away to more brighter colors because more fun and exciting and spirited looking. On the right, you'll see we're working right now. This is a thumbnail. This isn't the final piece, but we're working on some new brochures that will be placed out around the county. We go through about 20,000 of each type of brochure that we have in various places. Like Cabela's is a major area where people pick up our brochures about the area, but we also send them out to welcome centers and travel centers across the state. And now we're opening that up to Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware as well. So you can see we're trying to get a little more of that fun, spirited funk in there. It will have a brochure on, we have a brouhaha trail, which includes our breweries and wineries. We're reinventing that right now. That will become what we're calling a passport trail. So you'll be able to QR code it and follow it through your phone. We'll be working on a train passport. We'll be working on what we call Take It Outside, which is all our outdoor activity. By the way, Kim from Berks Nature would be happy to hear, like, that is our biggest draw at the moment, is our outdoor activity, hiking, biking, kayaking, skiing, snowboarding, etc. So you'll see some of that in the campaigns to come. This is one of our newest campaigns that will be hitting in the next week or so for winter activity. We'll have a spring campaign that will come out probably the end of March, beginning of April. But you can see, like, our headlines, these are digital banners. So you can see that our headlines are fun, that when you see them, they're really bright looking. You want to click into them and find out more. There's all different sizes of them right now, but you know, we're trying to get, we've always been creative in our headlines, but fun things like make good spirits guide you. Fun stuff. So you want to come in and you want to click in, and the impressions and the number of click-ins that we get from this. I'm just looking at, you know, some of the click-ins that we get, and impressions are in the 20 to 30 million impressions in 6 months. We had in November, we had over 380,000 people visit our website from between organic traffic and this type of traffic from digital paid advertising. And it was, you know, we had a little extra money to spend this year. So it worked out really well for us and for the city and for the county. If you come here, this was the holiday, this is a little sampling of the holiday that we did. Again, I think any of us, if we saw that on our screen or in our Facebook post, we'd want to click in and say, hey, that looks like fun. Let me see what's going on. So you can see, like, we took a little bit of a different approach. Our digital campaigns have always been done really well, but with some extra dollars to market. This past year, when we hit November, we actually surpassed what we did for our fiscal year, which runs July to June. We had more than double the number of people coming to our site, which is important because that translates to people coming and staying in our hotels. And I'm happy to say that our occupancy is up by a few percentage points in 2022 over what before the pandemic in 2019, which is very positive for the area. So I need your help because it would be important for all of us to share this information. If you can link from your business's site to our site, it gives your employees and potential employees something to look at if they're looking at your company, to see what the area is like. If you can share with your family and friends, hey, if you need information about events, go out to visit paamericana.com. You can hashtag us with great photos. We have a really cool system here that we have now. We receive about 20,000 or more photos in a year. We select those that we like. We go out for releases, and then we're able to use them in our materials. They come through Instagram, but you can hashtag Visit PA Americana, hashtag Berks County, hashtag Reading Berks County. We have Lisa shaking her head. I see there. Lisa Haggerty's in charge of that here, and we have lots of photos coming through and lots of photos to go through every single day. You can check out our website in a few weeks. If you go out today, you'll still see our current website at visitpaamericana.com. It's a huge website. We are working to build a new one, and you'll start to see that, and it will continue to be worked on for the next 6 months because it's thousands of pages. So it's not, it's a big one. And then I want to leave you with this before we go to questions, because they say curiosity killed the cat. Really, I think it was just boredom. And I think if you think about that for a second, I guarantee you won't get bored here in Reading and Berks County if you just take a little time to get curious and visit our website to find great things to do. Because if you get curious and stay curious, you all know that's what makes life fun. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to David, because I know there's probably questions out there, and I appreciate everybody's time. And again, I want to thank my board for attending, and my staff, my team here, who I couldn't do it without them.
Thank you, Crystal, and thank you, Ethan. Very, very interesting, very good presentation. Let me start with a fairly simple question. You've added Reading and Berks County to the Americana region. Why did you do that? Was that a challenge, or was it a difficulty that people were having?
I think when we started 7 years ago with Pennsylvania's Americana region, we always used the locator in our information of Reading and Berks County. That was always part of our sales pitch. And Pennsylvania's Americana region was still located in Pennsylvania. It was funny. I was out on a website for a tourism organization the other day, and right now I can't even remember the name of it, but they didn't identify where they were. They only identified, so if it was like us, they only identified Reading. They never had the country or the state they might have been in. So I had no idea where they were. I love their website, but I had no idea where they were located at. With that, we heard back from those people that we interviewed that they'd like Reading and Berks County to be a part of our logo and our brand. And we reflected back and said, okay, that's easy enough to fix. And we wanted to refresh it and have it become more exciting. So we included it in that logo and brand. And Ethan, I don't know if you have anything to offer there, but that pretty much sums it up, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was a concern that we heard in some of the interviews and some of the research, Dave, as you flagged. And I think the solution was to try to meld, rather than one or the other. I think one of the things that's strong about Pennsylvania's Americana region is it does hint to the visitor at an experience. It does say something. You get certain destination names that say purely the destination and give you no sense and no kind of convey of what's behind that. So I think the solution here is trying to kind of check both boxes. And I think, the get curious, I think from a campaign standpoint, from a sort of strategic standpoint, we're not marketing experts, but from a strategic lens, I think, some of the conversation that's happened in some of the kind of board sessions, strategy sessions is well, do people know Reading first? Do they know Berks County first? Do they know both, neither? And I think that is an open question, and research would be helpful, but we didn't feel like one should be necessarily leading over the other, only emphasize Reading, only talk about the remainder of the county in order to kind of maybe dodge some of the perceptions that are out there around Reading. So I think having both, and then I think being able to focus on experiences and topics that kind of transcend any one location. So if it's about dining or arts or what have you, there's the ability to kind of ping pong around different experiences from the county, different communities, et cetera, sort of within that brand framework.
Okay, yeah, Lancaster has an advantage in that the city and the county are named the same thing, so
Yes.
it's been a challenge for us.
It's always been a challenge for like the last 40 years, so it's not something new.
You mentioned several times trying to do more tourist-facing engagement with the Latino community. Berks County has a very significant Latino population. The city of Reading is or has been the only majority Hispanic city in Pennsylvania. What are you proposing? How do we do that? And who are the partners that need to be engaged in that part of the process?
Well, I think, and Ethan may be able to share more of this as well, but let me just start with, I know we've had conversations with some of our business and community leaders of the Latino communities. And in speaking with some, asking the question point blank is like, what do you think would attract? Because remember, we're looking at it from the visitor perspective, your community, more of your community to our market. And honestly, in so many ways, the answer is, well, we all like everything that everybody else likes. It would be like any ethnicity. We all like the same stuff. We like our food, we like our brews, we like entertainment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, yeah, I see Edna, right? We ski, we skate, we walk, we trail, right? Exactly. One of the things that was notable that came out of that was that, like, and I remember doing this as a kid, pulling families together, having family picnics and family gatherings with music and food. And often I think Parks and Rec right now has worked on scheduling their pavilions, because our Latino families, that's something that's very important. That family, I'll call it thing, is very important. And that's one of the reasons they would gather and come together. So it's not, I remember doing that as a kid all the time, and we sort of fell out of that. And I'd love to get back to that for everybody. So our plan is to continue. I'd like, when we get to our new website, to start to schedule some meetings again with our Latino leaders, business community, and say, how do we help? What can we do? And I think we need to look for, is there some asset that we could work on here as a county that may be more attractive to visitors of any ethnicity? But I also believe that we all like the same stuff. So it's just figuring out how to get the message out to everybody about what there is here. Ethan, I don't know if you have anything to offer there, but it's probably,
Yeah, I think that was really well put. The only nuance I would add is, are there identifying experiences that may be visitor ready or close to visitor ready, but are not necessarily apparent to the visitor? So if there are restaurants, if there are art spaces that you kind of need to be in the know, and it wouldn't be obvious from the exterior, what have you, are there ways to kind of surface those for visitors that would like those experiences? But I think big picture, the idea that you have shared experiences that people of any background would like, making sure the kind of representation is there in the marketing materials, making sure the messaging is there, and all of that is part of it too.
So are there ways to get that information to you? Are there ways that people in the community can share with you events and activities that they think might be engaging to Latino population or other populations?
Absolutely. As you know, like the Chamber, we're a membership, partnership-based organization. but we do work to support everybody to the best of the ability that we can. So you'll see on our website, we have a lot of organizations that are not partners. They just don't get the advertising. They might be listed on our website, but they don't get the advertising that other organizations would get. Their photo, more details, maps, etc. They can, of course, join us. We have a minimal membership fee for advertising every day, every year of the year. But if they contact us, you can contact us at info@visitpaamericana.com. You can contact me at crystal@visitpaamericana.com, and we'll work with you. We found ways in the past, during the pandemic, we did free partnership for everybody for 18 months. We had a Let's Go Local campaign that drove people just to our local businesses, that 92 businesses that were not members joined in, and it was all free. So we'll figure out ways. We want to help everybody, and somehow, some way we can do it.
Okay. You mentioned that one of the challenges, Ethan, was the downtown Reading. Could you talk about that a little bit? And could you talk a little bit about what kind of presence Pennsylvania Americana region has in downtown Reading?
Yeah, I think the presence that we had in the past was through the Downtown Improvement District, Reading's Downtown Improvement District. They held a lot of our pieces. People could walk in there and pick up brochures. We also have brochures at the Goggle Works, at Doubletree, at Peanut Bar. We're sending out new ones right now, so they may not be there today, but the Peanut Bar, Judy's, the Santander Arena, at times we'll put our travel guides out. When we market everybody across the county. So our job is to market the county, and Reading is the center of that. However, we may have 35 or 40 partners in Reading, but we have another 150 in the rest of the county. So it's a balance. Sometimes the city, and I don't mean the city council or anybody like that, I mean just the city, some of our partners will say, oh, you market the county more, and sometimes the county partners will say, oh, you market the city more. No, it's a balance. It depends on who's having what when. I know, I think there was a question about walk-in traffic, and I appreciate that question. 20 years ago, when we were in downtown Reading, we got a lot of international walk-in traffic, a lot of people stopping by to pick up materials. It's a different world now. Most of the requests for materials that we get are online, through email, through a phone call. They're able to go to you saw 380,000 people in only 7 months coming to our website. Those are significant numbers. They're not walking in our doors like they used to. And you'll hear that from most visitors bureaus across the country. But we do have a presence downtown, and we work with a lot of our partners. Our partners are the ones who fund us. So we want to ensure that we're able to promote and be with all of them.
Okay. Ethan, did anything come up in your focus groups about the city, the downtown?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. And I think the word that Crystal uses is balance. And I think that's right. One of the things that we surfaced in kind of the SWOT and in the findings was this line, and this is owed to our partner, Alan Parter, that there's kind of no defined visitor domain in Reading and in Berks County. And, what do we mean by that term? It's kind of a thing that's, it when you're there and it when you see it. But we kind of analogize it to, you go to a hotel, you walk outside of your hotel, and you can kind of tell by the way the sidewalks are structured, by the type of retail they have there. It's sort of inviting you as a visitor that's not familiar to kind of go another block, go around that next corner, and you kind of have a sense of you're in an area that's been, it's authentic to various degrees, but kind of curated for a visitor experience. And I think our sense is downtown Reading is not there at this moment. There are great visitor experiences there in terms of the facilities, the arts spaces, some of the restaurants, et cetera, but there is not that consistency of kind of block to block, door to door. So I think from a visitor standpoint, you have to navigate around that a little bit. You have to know that people are going to have kind of mixed reactions to that experience. Some people are going to see it as kind of authentic and really, to their liking. Others are going to shy away from it. So making sure that balance is struck, I think is important. I think we're optimistic and hopeful about kind of where things could go. Obviously, the downtown has great bones, has great potential. There's planning efforts out there. The city is working on them. The river, as we referenced, we think is a real opportunity. So I think from a tourism standpoint, being supportive of all that, monitoring where that's going, directing folks as much as possible as that kind of grows, but being aware of and acknowledging kind of the issues that are still there to a typical tourist that might come in.
That leads me to a question that sort of came up, because I think there's a couple different ways you can look at it. You talked about trail development, and I'm guessing that means a little bit of wayfinding. It probably means how to move people from one location to another location, but it also probably means where are the lots of outdoor scenic trails that we have here. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how all three of those things sort of factor into an equation for tourism?
Yeah, trails is an interesting word because it can mean certainly physical infrastructure, and obviously Berks County has plenty of that, and literal outdoor trails, the mountain biking, there are real assets there. But I think it's become kind of a term of art in the destination marketing world. Can you make a trail out of just a linked set of attractions, set of experiences? You call it, a beer trail or a wine trail, whatever those kind of themed experiences might be. So we see both of those working. Obviously, the outdoor assets themselves are very strong, but and Crystal can speak to this. The organization has really kind of used this trail and more in quotation marks as a concept to pull together different experiences.
Yeah.
Is there a way to use QR codes to try to help facilitate this?
Yes, we about 10 years ago, believe it or not, we started using QR codes. And they were exciting and people started using them, and then it sort of dropped off for a long time. Well, as we all know, they're back. So as we review and renew our materials, we are adding QR codes to those materials so that you can get to us through the code. One of the things we just did, I saw Trish Sherman, that was her question. We have our Get Curious business cards, and on the back is a QR code. So we are working on that. As far as trails go, now we're going into a new website, but on our old website, we had a menagerie of biking and hiking trails that we had created through maps with the help of Bamba and Berks Nature. We created maps that were GPS ride maps. So they showed you the loops and where to eat and on and on and on. That, for the time being, may go away on our new site, because as I said, this new site and our old site, it was a monster. They're huge. They have so much content on them, it's unbelievable. But eventually we will bring that back into the new site where you can click into biking or hiking trails and see the actual mapping of a trail. And we always ask, if you are out there in the community, you use Strava, use one of the other apps to map your ride, let us know. We'll hook it up into the system. I want to say Blue Marsh by far gets more hits in our website than any other outdoor activity or partner on our website. And I'm talking into the close to 10,000 in a year, people clicking in to find information on what to do, how to go out there. If you can bike, you can, cross country ski out there. You can do all kinds of things besides just being in the water. There's hiking and biking trails. Bamba has great trails out there right now for if you're learning or if you're more seasoned. As far as trails too, in our world, there's the trails of biking, hiking, then there's also trails of experience. And we're working on those with our passport trails that are with a group called Bamlanga, where we'll set these up, and through QR codes, you can follow these trails and stop in locations. You can bike or hike and then come into a brewery and have a beer and get back on the trail. I know,
That's Berks County.
yeah, our friend, and that's so important. Our friend at Chatty Monks is working on that with a new brewery that he opened up off Lancaster Avenue to come off the Schuylkill River Trail into the brewery and then get back on the trail and ride, maybe down to Phoenixville. And if you've ever ridden the rails down there, which I have, you can ride into Phoenixville and have a fun lunch and beer, and there's music going. They shut down the center of that main street, and they have all kinds of things going on a Sunday. It's fun. People like to do that.
That sort of leads me to a question I have that came up and several other people. You talked a lot about the Maple Grove Raceway, but there's some other sort of immediate attractions that come to mind here. There's a lot of good music and arts sorts of stuff. The trains are fairly important to Berks County. We have two tourist train rides that are available here, and hopefully someday soon we're going to have actual passenger trains coming back to Reading. So there are those kinds of activities. Bike races, the pagoda races, how do they factor into your equation? How attractive are they as options for people?
Very, very attractive. I mean, it depends on the season and what's happening. A lot of our music and festivals right now, let me say, our big assets are Maple Grove, Hawk Mountain, people coming to view the pagoda, World War II days, the Hamburger Festival, 40,000 people come to that. And Reading Leader Crots, I mean, there's a few more I could name that are the big, big attractions, but there's a lot of festivals and events that happen throughout the year. That's what our assets are right now. We don't have a Sight and Sound Theater or a Spooky Nook, which is the sports center up in Lancaster. We don't have that one big thing that happens all year round. Our things are more seasonal. So with Maple Grove, their season is pretty long. It starts in, I think, April, and it runs till November. But it's also unique because it is, I don't know if many people on the call know this, but it is the #1 drag racing strip in the country. The NHRAs, it's where the national races are held. It's a big deal. There's like 400,000 people at the last count that we had prior to the pandemic that come there throughout the year because they have events all the time. So it's one of those things that we can build upon that's there. We don't have to build new, because we always thought we had to build something new, but Ethan's group is saying, no, you've got this. And from the research they did, this could be really huge because you can add on other things like kids racing schools, go-kart racing. They have concerts down there right now too. There's other things that can be added to that. They have the land. They already have the start of the one facility. You could add more to. Our hope is at some point to figure out, okay, what else? We could have zip lining. Nathan Brandt may not be on the call any longer, but he's talked about zip lining across the Schuylkill River and developing a whole attraction of outdoor activity down there, which that's what people like to do now. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's hard because we have our festivals, and in between we promote all the great art stuff we have. We have, the breweries, we have outdoor activities. So there's a big conglomerate of things that we have to promote every day. And as you saw, on a small budget, but we do it, and we do it very well. We're looked at by others across the state as the benchmark, like, oh, why are you doing that? And where did you get that from? And how come you're doing it this way? Because we're always looking for the next step. How do we do it bigger, better?
Okay. Yeah, we're getting close to the end here, and I do have two more questions, and I'm going to assemble everything that everybody has asked and get that to you, Crystal, so you can see what they said, and if you want to respond to it. A lot of what we've talked about here today is how do we attract people to visit Berks County, the Reading area. How do we use that as a way of attracting people to live here and work here in Berks County?
Right. Well, I think one thing you always have to remember, to attract people to work here, everybody is a visitor first. They don't come here to work until they visit the area to make sure it's a place they want to be. Every business is looking for a place that is attractive to their employees so they can bring them here, or if they're here, retain them. So those are two important, very important factors to think about. We collaborate a lot with the GRCA and Meet Greater Reading, Aaron Gantz. There's a lot of partnerships, collaboration there. We know that people come to our site looking for what there is to do, but also for jobs. They go to their site looking for jobs. On our new site, we've had on the old site a jobs in Berks. On the new site, we will have that as well. So our hope is that we're going to collaborate together and start doing mixed digital advertising. So when we send our stuff out, we in between that can send information about, hey, and if you're interested in a job, check here. We did that right when the pandemic started. And I will tell you, we only did it in Berks County, and a lot of people, I mean, tens of thousands came out to look for jobs on the site. And I know GRCA has a great site. They're working hard to get that message out. So everybody here, send your people there to look for jobs. But we're going to help do that. So I think that, again, between the two of us, their forte is working with the businesses with that message. Our forte is marketing it to people outside of the business community and their community to get the message out. If I have 380,000 people coming to my website and 15,000 see the job tab and click in and get to the Chamber's website, cool.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to cheat and have two more questions.
Okay.
Why do you think we were so better off coming into the pandemic and out of the pandemic than some of our neighboring counties, particularly when you talked about how much they're spending on marketing? What right?
I think first, because we are a medium destination, not a large destination. Our hotels right now, occupancy on average is about 58%, which is good. Considering we don't have Sight and Sound or something that's routinely every week. But if you look at Lancaster's numbers, we get a report, the last report showed they were at 60% occupancy average. We're at 58%. They might even been lower than us on the last one. So what that says to me is, yeah, they have a lot more hotel rooms to full. But if you're comparing like how full are they versus how full are we, with what we have, we're doing as well as they are. I think because we are a medium location, and when we did our marketing, we were very selective. During the pandemic, before that, and today, we market in Philadelphia, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Northern New Jersey, New York. Sometimes we touch point Ohio. So those are all the areas and Pennsylvania, we put our messages out into. We've looked at how we refine it. We do it carefully. We're always retargeting. We're always looking at the demographics and geographics of who we're marketing to. So I think we're really careful about that. Not that they aren't, but as a larger organization, I guess, it might be harder to keep your hands on all that all the time. I look at analytics every day to make sure we're doing the right thing and it's going to the right places. We have a high level of organic traffic coming to our site, which means people know Pennsylvania's Americana region because they're coming back out or they're Googling Pennsylvania's Americana region to get to us. They're not necessarily all paid, which is positive as well. We have a lot of people from Reading, meaning Wyomissing, Sinking Spring, all the way into Exeter, Reading itself, coming to our site to look for things to do. So I think that kept us going. And our Let's Go Local campaign was highly, highly successful locally, but we pushed that out to Philly and Lancaster. So we drew their crowds here too. And I think that the hospitality industry was excellent during the pandemic. We had our wineries, we have our breweries, they all, they were outside serving, they were doing everything they could to make it as safe an experience as possible and do it outside when they had to, and then continue to do it outside, which people love. They love outdoors. So I think that all of it, our partners helped it. We helped our partners. We all worked together.
Great, thank you. If people have suggestions, people have ideas, people want to partner, reach out to you, Crystal.
Yeah, that's
So, right.
fine. Yeah, that's good. That
Okay.
works.
Well, I want to thank everybody. We've sort of passed our bewitching hour. I think this was a good session. I'm going to collect all the things that were in the comments section, Crystal, and get those to you. We can share those back with everybody.
Okay.
We will share a copy of the strategic plan along with the video with everybody who registered for the event today. I want to thank you all for joining us. Hope you will join us in February on the 16th when we do our community forum, which will feature the Federal Reserve of Philadelphia doing an economic forecast. We do have some other programs planned. Right now, we're planning a spotlight on the pagoda and the redevelopment of the pagoda in March. So we hope everybody will join us for these things in the future. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.